The Galactic Academy of Unified Species was a marvel of interstellar cooperation, a place where beings from across the cosmos gathered to learn. It was a peaceful institution, filled mostly with students from paradise worlds, creatures who had never faced true hardship. And then, there was Alex Carter. A human. A Deathworlder. Whispers followed him through the halls. Some students refused to make eye contact, others flinched if he moved too quickly. Even teachers seemed wary, speaking to him with forced neutrality. Humanity's reputation preceded him, stories of unbreakable endurance, raw strength, and terrifying resilience spread like wildfire. He didn't bother correcting them. Let them think what they wanted. For weeks, the Academy had carefully avoided putting him in any physical activities, likely out of fear. But today, that changed. A new mandate required all students to participate in gym class. No exceptions. The moment Alex's name appeared on the roster, panic set in. Nervous murmurs filled the air as students gathered in the gymnasium. The massive hall, designed for zero-gravity sports, felt unusually tense. Some species looked outright terrified, their nervous systems not built for confrontation. Others, the larger, stronger beings, watched him with cautious curiosity. The instructor, a towering reptilian with 4 arms, clapped his hands together. Today, we begin graveball training. Teams will be randomized. The words barely registered before students started whispering. They're really letting a Deathworlder play? I heard humans can survive falls from mountains. One punch can turn bones to dust. Alex sighed. He had expected this. His team was announced, and his new teammates looked miserable. A small insectoid alien clicked its mandibles nervously, a feathered avian being fluffed up in distress. The last member, a gelatinous entity, shuddered. None of them spoke to him. The opposing team consisted of larger, stronger species, beings built for physical prowess. Ordinarily, they would have been confident. But against a human? Even they hesitated. The instructor explained the rules. Move the energy sphere across floating platforms and into the opposing team's goal. Physical contact was allowed, but excessive force was strictly forbidden. Alex could feel their eyes on him, waiting for him to explode into violence. The instructor gave one final glance in his direction before blowing the whistle. The game had begun. The moment the whistle blew, no one moved. The aliens hesitated, eyes darting toward Alex as if expecting an immediate display of destruction. He remained still, watching, calculating. The energy sphere floated between the two teams, untouched. Then, one of the larger players on the opposing team, a hulking, gorilla-like alien, made the first move, lunging for the sphere. That was the signal. Chaos erupted. Alex's teammates scrambled, but it was clear they weren't focused on winning. They were too busy avoiding him, careful not to get too close. He sighed. If they wouldn't play properly, he would have to adjust. The opposing team was aggressive, but sloppy. They relied on brute strength, shoving past obstacles rather than maneuvering around them. Alex, on the other hand, moved with precision. He didn't charge in recklessly, he observed, looking for patterns, weak spots. An avian opponent snatched the sphere and kicked off a floating platform, soaring toward Alex's goal. Alex reacted instantly. With a sharp push, he propelled himself forward, twisting in midair to intercept. He wasn't the biggest player on the field, but that didn't matter. He was faster. Smarter. The avian barely had time to react before Alex was there, cutting off their path. Panicked, they tried to swerve, but Alex had already anticipated the move. A simple shift in direction, a perfectly timed extension of his arm, and the sphere was his. Silence. His teammates stared. The opposing team hesitated. They had expected brute force, a show of overwhelming strength. Instead, they saw something far more unsettling: control. Alex didn't gloat. He didn't celebrate. He just kept moving. The game continued, but the dynamic had shifted. The aliens weren't just afraid of his strength anymore. They were afraid of how effortlessly he adapted. How he read the field like he had been playing for years. The gorilla-like alien tried to challenge him next, aiming to bodycheck him mid-air. Alex saw it coming. Instead of bracing for impact, he twisted at the last second, using the alien's own momentum against him. The larger player crashed into a platform, disoriented. By the time the game neared its final moments, the outcome was clear. Alex wasn't just playing, he was dominating. Not with power, but with efficiency. Every move calculated, every action deliberate. And for the first time, the whispers in the crowd changed. This wasn't the mindless destruction they feared. This was something else entirely. Something they hadn't prepared for. The game had transformed. What started as fear had become something else: unease, disbelief. The aliens had expected raw power, but what they got was something far worse: complete mastery. Alex wasn't the biggest player, nor the strongest, yet he dictated the entire match. His movements were effortless, weaving through obstacles with a level of precision that no one else could match. He didn't overpower his opponents, he outmaneuvered them. Every feint, every dodge, every perfectly timed counter left them scrambling. The sphere came loose again, floating between two players. A reptilian opponent reached for it, but Alex had already calculated the angle. He kicked off a nearby platform, twisting mid-air, and intercepted it in a single, fluid motion. The reptilian flinched, expecting impact, but Alex had already moved on. No wasted energy. No unnecessary aggression. Just results. His teammates, who had spent most of the match avoiding him, were finally beginning to understand. The insectoid alien hesitated before calling out, uncertain. "Pass it." Without a word, Alex did. A perfect, precise throw. The insectoid barely managed to catch it, startled. No force, no overwhelming strength, just teamwork. The opposing team was desperate now. The gorilla-like alien charged again, determined to stop him at any cost. It was their last chance. They had the size, the muscle, the momentum. But it didn't matter. Alex didn't evade this time. He adjusted his stance, shifted his weight, and at the last second, redirected the force. The alien's own power worked against them, sending them tumbling past as Alex remained untouched. The sphere came back to him. One final move. He analyzed the field in an instant. Calculated distances, angles, motion. And then, with a single sharp throw, he launched the sphere toward the goal. It sailed through, landing perfectly. The scoreboard flashed. Game over. Silence filled the gym. No gasps, no shouts, just stunned disbelief. The match wasn't won through brute force. It was won through something far more terrifying. Control. The silence stretched for several long seconds before the realization set in. It was over. Alex had won. And he hadn't broken a single rule. The instructor checked the scoreboard, then the players, as if expecting to find injuries. There were none. No one had been crushed, no bones broken, no reckless displays of brute strength. Just a clean, efficient victory. Alex landed lightly, rolling his shoulders as if the match had been nothing more than a casual warm-up. Around him, the reactions were mixed. His teammates were still processing what had happened. The opposing team, some of the strongest species in the academy, looked shaken. They hadn't just lost, they had been outclassed in a way they didn't know how to handle. The insectoid alien took a hesitant step forward. You could have won that alone, couldn't you?" Alex shrugged. "Maybe. But that's not how a team works." That was what finally broke the tension. A realization rippled through the crowd. Humans weren't just dangerous because of their strength or endurance. They were dangerous because they understood how to win without needing to overpower. Because they adapted, learned, and executed with terrifying efficiency. The gorilla-like alien, who had tried to tackle him multiple times, gave a slow nod. Respect. The avian player, who had once flinched at his presence, studied him with new eyes. "You weren't what I expected." Alex smirked. "Good." The next time gym class was announced, there was no whispering about Deathworlders, no fearful glances. Instead, students whispered about strategy, about technique, about how they could learn to move like that. And for the first time since he arrived, Alex wasn't being avoided. He was being studied. The instructor, no longer tense, clapped his hands together. "All right. Next session, we increase the difficulty." A few students groaned. Alex just smiled. Let them raise the challenge. He was ready.